Just testing the microphone.
I'm good. Okay, good. Today is Tuesday, May the 16th. It's a regular council meeting for the town of Rocky Mountain House. And it's 1 p.m. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. And I have an item to add for 8.11. A letter from Marissa Stryker from the Sylvan Lake Gulls are inviting council to an event on May 26th. May 24th. Their first game is on May 26th. So I'd like to add that to 8.11. Does anybody else have any additions or deletions? Councillor Hutchinson.
I would like to add a discussion for council on coffee with councillor.
Okay. So do you want to make up a notice of motion, or you just wanted to?
Just have a discussion on what we're, 8.12.
Okay, 8.12, coffee with the councillor. Anybody else, any other additions or deletions to the agenda?
Your worship, just appointment for RCMP interviews.
Up, so 8.13,
Or 7.4 could go under.
7.4. That's for staff sergeant. Thank you, Mr. Kroos. Anybody else? Okay, so with all those additions, would somebody like to make a motion? Councillor Phillips.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the agenda for May 16th with the 3 amendments.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. So we do not have any delegations today. 4.1, adoption of the previous minutes. Were there any additions or changes to the minutes from May 2nd of 2023? Seeing none, would someone like to make a motion? Councillor Auld.
I'll make the motion, we adopt the previous regular council minutes for May 2nd.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Pardon me, Councillor Auld? So we have no delegation business, so old business. 6.1 is RFD for bylaw 2023/06, non-residential tax incentive bylaw. Dave, Councillor Auld.
I'm just going to recuse myself from this section of the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. So just wait a moment for Councillor Auld to leave the room. Okay, so I believe Mr. Schwader would like to go over the bylaw.
Good afternoon, Mayor Bache and Council. I'm before you for the first reading for non-residential tax incentive bylaw 2023/06. Administration got direction from Council a few months back in regards to creating a bylaw that will give incentives for new construction or expansion of buildings. Under legislation, tax incentives for non-residential property in the MGA is 364.2 in the report. As far as the communication of the bylaw, as far as introducing it to the developers and business owners, excuse me, within the community, we did have a public meeting as well as social media feedback. And under the financial side, just have it starred here, possible future tax increase would be shifted to existing properties until such time the property becomes fully taxed. Comments, we did have a public meeting on May 2nd. We had one person attend, but that individual did not comment on the proposed bylaw. We did also have comments from social media and town website that council received on May 2nd via an email. As far as some of the highlights regarding bylaw 2023/06, construction of a new non-residential development with a assessed value at or above 100,000, or an expansion of existing non-residential development that increase the assessed value by at least 100,000. The exemption only applies to municipal taxes. Provincial school requisitions and school seniors housing requisitions are excluded from this program. The exemption program shall be considered upon open from July 1st, 2023 until December 31st, 2028. Tax exemption will be on the new construction or expansion and not on the land. Eligible property shall receive the first-year exemption in the following year of their approved application date. By way of example, a property approved in 2024 will receive the first exemption on the 2025 tax notice. Applicants must submit a complete application for the tax exemption program to the town. A complete application must be received before construction of a new project or expansion project has commenced. In the report there, it kind of breaks down the calculation of exemption for the different amounts that people would be either due for construction or exemption, and it shows the number of years of exemption and the percentage. And I just have some alternatives and I recommend action. Any questions in regards to the bylaw?
I just had a question for clarification. July 2023 to July 2028, is that when you can apply for this exemption? Or is that when the exemptions happen?
Considered open from, so you have till December 31st, 2028 to apply.
Thank you very much. Councillor Shipald.
So I'm not clear what the start date is, so we have an end date, and if somebody applies right at the end, it can go on for 3 years thereafter, or ever how many years. But do we have a specific start date as to when it starts, or when
It's
somebody
July
can
1st,
apply?
2023, as far as the bylaw. But
No,
as
and-
far as in the application form, the draft application form, we have .9 on the application form. For the purpose of this application, commencement means the day work starts on the foundation, including excavation or piling work. So if someone needed to push grading or whatever, that's acceptable. But once they start building for a foundation, that's when the construction commencement date. So if it's before July 1st, then it would not qualify.
So to clarify that, if they applied for a building permit before July 1st,
Right.
they're able to apply for this?
Correct, because they haven't started any work yet.
But they've already applied for a building permit.
So, which they haven't commenced any work on that yet. So, that's the way I would interpret it, the department.
I don't think they should be applying for a building permit before they apply for this exemption. They should apply, because we want them to apply for the exemption right away so we know what's going on. We don't want them to start construction or apply for the building permits and then,
They would apply for the application.
before they apply for the building permit?
Either or, as long as they don't start working before July 1st.
So is it clear in there that they don't apply for a building permit before they apply for this exemption?
I don't believe so. No.
Counselor Boniface?
We're going to offer the exemption regardless, correct? So we're gonna,
Correct.
it'd just be done in tandem with, would it
Right.
not be, here's your application for building permit, here's your application for this, fill them both out, bring them back?
Right. As far as, we want to make it as speedy as possible for developers to get the job done. So as long as they start doing the paperwork, but they don't do it before July 1st, that should work for the town.
Was July 1st picked as a date to give us time to implement the program, or can the program be brought up to June the 1st?
More or less to implement the program.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Schiffel.
Your worship, so if I could, the second lot that's sold has got a development permit sign in front of it already.
Correct.
Will they be able to apply for this even though they got a development permit?
Yes.
They will?
Yep.
Okay.
Councillor Hutchinson.
Could you just kind of explain the possible future tax increase would be shifted to existing properties until such time the property becomes fully taxed?
I'll let Mr. Prost answer that one.
I could probably even answer that one. Go ahead, Mr.
Okay,
Kraus.
So, you know, hypothetically, so going into 2024, per se, council does a tax increase of 3%. So the 3% that would have been picked up by the new development, that if they were paying taxes, that would be shifted to existing businesses. So what you're looking at, you know, so we're not taxing any new assessment, but any tax increase, that would have to be absorbed by other businesses.
Why don't they just get a bill for whatever it would generally be and then not have to pay that?
I'm not understanding the question.
Okay, so
Your
we
Worship.
set our mill rate, right? And then you get you have your assessment, so your assessment is the original assessment. If the mill rate this year is 2 point, whatever the mill rate is, right? When we set the mill rate for the next 5 years, say you're doing the 5-year deferment, it's not that other people would be paying taxes, it's that you just don't pay your share of taxes, right?
No, so if there was like a 3% tax increase and we did not have this program, that 3% tax increase would be split among all the property owners, correct? So because we're not taxing the new business, that 3% tax increase has to be absorbed through the properties that are not in the tax exemption program.
Right, okay. But it's not costing anybody anything, because if,
Well, it'd be minimal, but it would be costing because there's a tax increase that is no longer spread out between all the properties. It's spread out among the properties that are not in the tax exemption program.
right. But it doesn't actually cost the town anything to exempt someone, because if they don't have any construction, the only difference would be the original tax is not being paid, right? It's not like a cost.
Well,
I
it's
just
not a
want-
cost to the municipality. no.
Correct. That, I just want to make sure that it's clear that it's not a cost. It's a good program for the community, because it's not going to cost them, we're not paying for anything extra. They're just deferring paying taxes. Counselor Phillips?
So I just on clarification, if the tax amount was $1,000 and we had a 3% tax increase, there would be a $30, we're talking that $30 incremental amount. Spread out, correct. Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions for Mr. Schwader? So just to be, is everyone around the table happy with the beginning and end dates of this program? Counselor Schiffeld?
I just want to talk about the general rules, and I know it covers off in there that it's only on the improvement on the land that the exemption, so in terms of the exemption, it's when the improvement on the land reaches so much money. So there's different, like 100,000 or whatever the numbers are. But it doesn't, in the general criteria for tax exemption, I'm just worried if it should say that the improvement, not the land, it doesn't really cut out the land in there. I'm not sure how to explain that.
Do you mean that they should pay their original base rate all the way along and just not pay for the improvements?
No, in terms of the, we've got, you gotta hit certain criteria in order to qualify for getting the reduction in your taxes. And the larger the project, the more reduction you get over a longer period of time. So is that include land as well? Because if somebody buys a piece of land for $1.3 million or $4 million, all of a sudden it almost puts them into that area for getting a higher exemption for value. So I guess the question is it take both land and the improvement, or just the improvement? And if it's just the improvement, then it doesn't spell that out?
So I guess my answer to that would be the land is already being assessed, and it's not new assessment. So the land is already being assessed presently. So this is for new assessment. So that would be on the building or expansion of an existing building. I'm not sure if I answered that right or not, but
So you did answer
Yeah.
that right, but
Yeah.
could we clarify in the document that it's for, it excludes the value of the land and only is exempting the value of the construction for the criteria?
So your worship, in section 3.3D, it says tax exemption will be on the new construction or expansion and not on the land.
Okay, so that answers your question then.
I knew it was in there, but I'm just wondering if it shouldn't have been in 3, under the general rules, under the criteria for tax exemption. It's in there, so we're okay. I guess my question was, should it also be somewhere else that doesn't get missed? You're the one implementing the program, you'll be the one who's going to keep us on.
right. So,
That clarifies everybody's questions? Okay, so I'm really excited about this program because I think, you know, giving an incentive for developers to build and grow in the town of Rocky Mountain House is exactly the direction that we want to move in. And so I'm very pleased with, and thank you for all your hard work on getting this ready for us so quickly so that we can proceed. Counselor Phillips, would you like to make the motion?
Sure, I just want to make a quick statement first. Yeah, I agree with the mayor that this is a good step in the right direction to encourage businesses, non-residential, to either come to Rocky or to expand the existing businesses. So I think we're doing something good for the residents of town. And yes, I'd be happy to make the motion that council give first reading to bylaw 2023/06.
Thank you very much. Any questions on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the first reading? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So I know we're really all very anxious to start this program, but I think I'd like to do second reading and then hold off on third reading till the next. Laura, we're not, okay. Okay. We're not done our motions, sorry. Did we want to do a second reading today of this bylaw, and then if we could hold off on the third motion? Counselor Caprero, you had your light on first.
Yeah, I would be happy to go ahead with the second reading for this bylaw, so I will go ahead and make the motion. Be it resolved that council gives second reading to bylaw 2023/06.
Thank you very much. So, and I would prefer to wait one more meeting. You know, usually we have 6 weeks and 4 weeks to implement the program. I still think it gives us opportunity, even though it's really positive for our community. It holds more with, you know, our property due diligence of doing it over 3 meetings. We'll just end up doing it over 2. Counselor Phillips, do you have a comment about that?
Sorry, my light was on. Yeah, I was just under the understanding we were only doing first reading today, but
Okay.
I'm fine with doing second reading as well.
Okay. So we've done that. Did we voted on that?
Not now.
Okay, so good. Sorry, that caught me off guard. So all in favor of second reading? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So with that, closing that business, if there's no other comments or questions, we'll move on to 7.1, and we'll ask Mr. Counselor Auld to come back in the room. Okay, 7.1, we have a notice of motion about Market on Main, and I'm going to turn that to Councillor Chappelle. Did you want to go over So your motion was that councillor direct administration to investigate the feasibility of rotating Market on Main between lower and upper blocks of 50th Street and bring back a report to council.
That's correct. That's what my notice of motion was, your worship. I guess where I'm at now is, I'm not sure, Mr. Kraus, what would be the next step? Do we just leave this with staff, administration, or do we need, what's the follow-up process?
So, your worship, so the notice of motion is to bring a report back. So really, the motion is for council, do we even want to entertain moving it back and forth on alternate weeks or not? So if council does, then we would bring back a report to council with the implications of that. I mean, because there is a lot of logistics involved in holding Market on Main. But, so.
Okay, so I think we could have discussion about the motion. Does anybody have any questions or comments about the motion that Councillor Chabot has on the table? Did you want to make a comment about your motion?
I do, and I don't think it'd be back and forth on a weekly basis. I'm just thinking half the 10 weeks would be at the top and half the 10 weeks would be at the bottom. It'd probably be the easiest. The other comment I have is about the way it's facing right now. If it's community-oriented, the old, and with COVID, we had it back-to-back in the middle of Main Street, and I think that some of the feedback I got is how it was people felt it was better for camaraderie and just discussion if it was the way it used to be, where the middle of the street, people were walking up and down, you see your buddy and you stop in the middle of Main Street and you talk to him. So I'd just like to have a look at that as well in there. But for sure, to move it for half the summer at the top, half the summer at the bottom would be my preferential way of looking at that.
Councillor Phillips.
Yeah, I'd like to see what the feasibility of rotating them between top and bottom of Main Street would be, just in all fairness as to all the businesses, to allow, Market on Main to be in front of your business for certain times of the year and certain times of the year not. But I think it's worth investigating whether we go back to the old side by side or back to back. I mean, that can be part of the feasibility study as well.
Councillor Hutchinson.
I like the idea of the way the setup is now, for the reason that all the storefronts get exposure, whereas when it was the old way, your booth is backing onto the storefronts, and if the storefronts are taking advantage of having people on the streets and staying open, I think the old way, or the new way, allows for more traffic for them.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other comments, so I'll just have a last comment before we proceed. I really like the idea of giving all the other businesses opportunity. I remember when it went all the way up and down Main Street, it was really nice. It didn't cause any troubles with setup, and we did used to have the music at the corner by the bowling alley. And originally we had it in a couple different places, so I like the idea, and I would really like to see administration do a investigation of that. I also really like the same feedback about how all the booths were on the outside. You can actually see the businesses better when you're doing it that way. This way, it was actually really hard because you're trying to do a loop, and so you're shuffling back and forth on one side to try and catch the businesses. And if you just did like was on the outside like it was before, I think businesses have better exposure because you're only looking one way, you're not looking out the middle. And so I would like to see what that looks like too for feasibility. So I'm in favor of this motion, and I will call that for a vote. Did you have a question, Councillor All?
I would like to see in that investigation, there's not a whole lot of businesses that are open, so I'd like to see us, if we go that route for administration, to contact the businesses that are open and to see what their opinions are on how they would like to have it set up.
So you would like to make an addition to the motion, or do you just want that to be part of the feasibility?
Part of the feasibility, when they're looking at it, if they get a hold of the actual businesses and see what their opinions are on how they would like to have it set up down the middle or on the sides, see what works best for them.
So do you just want a survey of all the businesses?
Just part of the investigation from admin, however they wanna do it.
Okay. Counselor Chappelle?
I thought it was gonna be a friendly amendment, but I guess you're just asking for that to be included in there, and I have no problem with that. I think that's a wise move to the people that it affects to get their opinion. That's awesome. So my motion is, that I direct administration to investigate, or we direct administration to investigate the feasibility of rotating Market on Main between the lower and upper blocks of 50th Street, and to bring back a report to council.
Thank you very much. So we'll call that to a vote now. Is there any further questions or discussion on that item? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So we move to 7.2, notice of motion. Do we have that notice of motion? Counselor Chappelle, did you want to read your notice of motion from last week?
My notice of motion from last week was just that we direct administration to investigate the costs and feasibility of having the share shed at the Eco Center, and to bring back report to council. So the share shed seems to be still something that people are looking for, so I'm hoping we can go ahead and have a look at that and bring it in sooner than later.
Okay. So do we have any question? Did you want to add any information on that item, or is there any questions or concerns about that topic? Counselor Chappelle, or, sorry, Counselor Boniface.
I'd have to say, I'd like to see us not do this. You know, we had a share shed. We talked about it an awful lot. It was owned by the Lions Club. We decided not to have it. It was sold. We went out, administration contacted other charities to see if any of them would take it over. If we were to build another share shed, it would be at the cost of the town running it. I know from speaking with the people that work there that basically every Thursday, the first few hours, we're get the bobcat out and the buckets and start mucking out the share shed so that there was room in there for the weekend kind of thing, and take all the crap out of there. If we went with the kick it to the curb, and I think we could probably look at even upping our kick it to the curb, and during the summer months, we could maybe do it once a month or twice a month if the need was there. I know for myself, I don't want to hang on to the stuff forever in my house. If it's there too long, it goes to the landfill. But if we had another way to get rid of it, but I think with the expense, I mean, we just sold the darn thing, and then we got to go build another one. So it's just a thought.
Okay. Counselor Ald?
Just a clarification, it wasn't the town that sold the shed, it was Lions Club.
Lions, I apologize.
But if we're gonna go down this road, we have the survey coming back, our assessment, our survey for the garbage, we're having another waste assessment. I'd like to wait till that was completed before we went and changed and modified what we're doing now. I'd like to see what that assessment says.
Counselor Phillips?
Yes, I think it's worth, I mean, the share shed is worth having a discussion about and seeing, did we make the right decision, did we not make the right decision? I agree with Counselor Boniface that the Kick It to the Curb program has been well received, and we probably could benefit from more Kick It to the Curb events over the course of the season. You know, and I do agree with Counselor Auld as well that we should look at the Sonavera report when we get the new waste audit to see what that report says as well. So I think looking at the share shed topic again is probably prudent, but taking into account that we have, you know, there has been other things that have been done, but yeah, I think we can look at the feasibility of it again at least.
Okay, did you want to make a second comment, Counselor Chappelle?
Having heard the comments around the table, and since we do have a report coming out regarding where garbage is at in our community, maybe it would be prudent to wait for that report to come out and have a look at this at that point in time. So possibly we can just table this matter until that report is done. If I can withdraw the motion till then.
We could table it. Mr. Kraus, when are we doing that? I thought that was in August.
No, it is in June.
we're doing that report in,
June.
that study in June, and then
June.
we would have the report back by what kind of a date?
August, I would guess.
So we could proceed with Kick It to the Curb program and then review the whole thing in September. Do you want to, could we table this motion until September?
Yes.
Okay. I know that the Share Shed was like a really well-used program, and there was some, you know, idiosyncrasies with it, and I would like to as well look at it in September once we have more information. So we'll table that until a September meeting when that Sonoveris, is that the right word? Sonovera report is completed. So we'll just have that tabled till then. We'll need a motion to table that, sorry. I'll make a motion to table that until September when the Sonoveris report is available. So all in favor of tabling the 7.2 until September? And that's carried. I did want to add that, you know, one of the things that the church group did was one day as a drop-off and a different day as a pickup. And then I'm just wondering if that's something that the Share Shed, you know, would be a solution that it splits up dropping off and picking up to solve some of the problems. So 7.3, the RFD for wastewater treatment plant estimated cost overages.
Feels a little lonely up there without Betty. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Good afternoon.
All right, as outlined in this, the wastewater treatment plant, we've sent out for tenders. We've received 4 competitive bids. And the lowest cost tender is more than was originally anticipated back in 2018 when the funding was originally established. So we're here to ask council for additional funds. Again, Betty's not here, but the decisions are in there. So I guess I'll open up to council for questions.
Absolutely. Councillor Phillips?
This is probably more of a question of Mr. Kraus. Are we able to go back to the granting for the federal and provincial levels to say, hey, this project has gone over costing? Can we get our granting bumped up as well? Is that, I don't know if that's a possibility.
So, Your Worship, to Councillor Phillips, we've already done that, and we've put that application in. I don't think we've received a firm word from them of yes or no. On the federal side, they're saying highly unlikely, but on provincial side, they are looking at it. So what's being presented to council today really is the worst case scenario. There's 3 factors in here too. That $30 million also includes $1 million of contingency. So hopefully we don't have to use that throughout the project. 2, we are still negotiating with Clearwater County on a percentage, and administratively we are close, I think, to an agreement, and that'll go to the ICCC in June. So that figure will be established then, and we're looking probably mid-range of the high and low in the report. Did I cover it?
Those are the big ones. And again, we'll continue to look for efficiencies when we're building it, right? So
I mean, administration did look at reducing the scope of the project, which is also in the report to lower the cost, but then that takes out the redundancy in the plant. So when the centrifuges goes down, that means the plant is down, so we actually need to. So we didn't really find anything that would provide any significant dollar value without jeopardizing the plant operations.
a lot of the funding and costs is in the supporting equipment and infrastructure around a lot of the equipment as well. So there's not a huge amount of cost savings in deferring, buying a piece of equipment or not using it right away. And then we'd have to be right back here right again.
Yeah. Once the tender process is completed, then the pricing is set, is that correct?
We have tendered, and this is the firm price, and we have until June 16th to award the contract. They have to
Okay.
hold their prices until June 16th, so we're under, you know, some time pressures here, because we want to make sure that price is held and not have to go out again, or,
Counselor Chappelle?
This is my neglect for not being on council prior, because I'm sure everybody else around the table knows this. The location, and is the location, I mean, are we looking at the north end of town and developing to the south? Is the location make sense? Has the actual location of the plant? And I don't even know where it's located at, so maybe just update me on where it's located, and furthermore, if the location of that plant makes sense to the future growth of Rocky Mountain House.
oh, go ahead.
So, yeah, right now it's to the northeast side of town. And again, it's really the largest factor is that's where the existing system is, and all of our underground infrastructure is tied into that point. And a large amount of our sanitary system is a gravity system, so it all flows there largely by gravity. We do have lift stations, of course, but the location of the treatment is sort of determined largely by that. And as far as future growth, we have our utility master plans, and we're well set up for getting the wastewater to where it needs to be for all of the future developments, whether that be to the south through the lift station that is sized for those additional pumps, or through other areas in town that, when those happen. So that's, the location is kind of where it is, and it would be quite expensive to relocate it, because that's how all the infrastructure is, and it makes sense where it is.
Could you also explain that after the wastewater is treated, it's going into the holding ponds, and then we're selling that water?
So yes, we are going into the existing lagoons as an alternative sort of redundant backup if everything should go. And then we are looking to sell some water for the lagoons, but primarily it flows from the lagoons into the river.
But do you see that it's gonna go beside the lagoons, and then it's gonna act as a holding pond for the treated water? And we are selling some of that water as almost like a cistern.
That makes sense. What doesn't, in my mind, make sense is that the infrastructure buried in the ground between the lift station out at the corner of Highway 11A and 60th Street has some, I mean, it's only a certain size pipe there, and as we grow, one day that pipe will not suit our needs. I'm assuming there'll be too much volume for what that can go through that pipe. And so that's why my question is, that plant located in the right place, and down the road, do we have to then replace infrastructure, put new infrastructure in from the lift station at the bottom of the hill there to the lagoon? Because the majority of our sewage goes through that lift station at the present time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll call that the main lift station, because that's how
Correct.
we refer to it. So yeah, a lot of flow does go through the main lift station, Creekside, all of those areas to the south do require it to flow through the lift station. The lift station has a number of pumps, and we can upsize those pumps. We can also add on to them as far as that. That's more of the restriction right now, is more the pumping side of it than the pipe flow. Because sanitary flow is the amount of flow compared to like stormwater or what you're imagining. The pipes aren't prohibitively large. We're not talking 1,200, manholes, even for a town the size of Rocky. I think our biggest is a 700 millimeters, right? So they're not gigantic pipe. It's not like storm infrastructure. It's not like Calgary or Edmonton, where we have these absolutely massive amounts of flow.
So to that then, our town can grow for the next 30 years without having to work about changing that pipe? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I'd have to double check the plan, so I hesitate to say definitively that we won't need an additional pipe, but again, it's all laid out in the capital or the utility master plan. And again, it's part of, the offsite levies are sufficient to cover that if it is required.
Can I ask a different question? Are we able to change it at this point?
Not really, no. If you wanted to have, again, a larger town, maybe multiple plants, but again, that does not make sense for Rocky.
We're not able to change the location of the plant at this time anyways, right?
No, you'd have to redo every sanitary line in town. Because again, it is a gravity system. It's 95% of all the sanitary flows by gravity.
Okay, thank you. So, Your Worship, I wasn't questioning the location of the plant, it's just to make sure that we don't have a new capital cost coming up because we got a restriction in a pipe versus the plant location, and knowing that the development will go south typically or someplace, Just want to know how much energy was put into that prior to determining where the plant was and how the plant site got determined, so.
Counselor Phillips, did you have a question?
More of comments. Reading the report, I agree that trying to scale back the project is not the way to go. We want to have redundancies in the system so it doesn't not work. And we also don't want to take a system that needs to be added on to 5 or 10 years down the road at 5 or 10 years down the road dollars. It'll be more economical to do it today than it would be to do it 5 or 10 years down the road. So I agree that scaling back the project is not the way to go. And, you know, once this project is done, you know, further to Councillor Schipholz's comments, this will allow future growth for decades for Rocky, because this plant will allow us to grow without having to grow the plant. So there is decades of growth.
Yeah, the plant is sized for a minimum of 50 years. You know, projecting optimistic growth projections. So.
Counselor Boniface?
You said that you chose the cheapest one of the four. Are you happy with that?
We are, yes. So again, we did get 4. There was a pre-qualification as well as for this, so we were confident that those who did submit tenders, we pre-qualified them, we checked all their references, and that was actually a fairly lengthy process. You know, for a project this size, we really want to vet the contractors and make sure we have a quality contractor with lots of mechanical experience and you know, does this sort of work fairly often. So just from that pre-qualification, they were there. And again, just the lower cost contractor on this particular tender, they're highly reputable. They've done this sort of work before. We called other municipalities that have worked with them in the past and whatnot. That's all part of our due diligence, especially for a project of this scale.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm very comfortable. We're not going with them because they're the lowest cost, but they're the best. They submitted the most competitive tender. Right. So it wasn't a low cost tender. There's the most competitive.
Okay. Counselor Ald?
Yeah, if there's, I'd just like to make a motion.
Well, I think I'll have a question first, if you wanted to wait, and then I'll call for the motion. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for doing all this, and I appreciate that you've consulted. I think everybody's mind is hockey change room's not the right size, and making sure that we have the right contractor. So now, if there's no more questions, I'll ask for a motion. Counselor Ald?
I make the motion that council approves an increase of 3.6 million to the wastewater treatment plant capital project from 27,223,000 to 300,823, with funding sources to be from the Clearwater County contribution and debentures for the town portion.
30,823,000, not 300 million? Yep, no problem. Just wanted to clarify. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I know
Thank
you
you.
brought in sort of mid-project. That's the other thing I wanted to say is thank you for all your hard work on this, because I know that you weren't here at the beginning of time.
I actually enjoy it, so it's all.
Okay, perfect. Thank you again. So 7.4 RCMP staff sergeant discussion. Mr. Kraus, did you want to start us off on
Yeah,
that?
so thank you, Worship. So the Staff Sergeant Myers from the RCMP contacted me yesterday, asking if we wanted to have representation on the interviews for the new staff sergeant. He informed me the candidates would be coming to Rocky, and that would be at the RCMP cost, not at the municipality's cost. The only thing they asked from us is a venue for them to conduct the interviews. So that would be minimal, so it would probably be council chambers, I would guess. So now they're just looking for a person to coordinate with for those interviews.
Excellent, thank you very much. And so I know that the policing committee did bring it up to council to ask if we could participate in that, and it went back and forth. And so it's nice that we're able to participate in this process without it costing the municipality any money. Councillor Hutchinson.
Was there any more clarification when you said in your email, Mr. Kraus, a representative that could or could not include council? or I read it, and as I had mentioned before, you know, our job is governance and not operations, and hiring a position like this, I feel, would be operational, so I would like to see it go to maybe Mr. Schwade or somebody who's a little more familiar with the hiring process and what that falls under.
Like, I'm curious about the answer of that as well. I think the idea was that someone on council had participation to represent the community of the elected body, but I would see what Mr. Kraus answered that question like.
So in discussion with the RCMP, they've said they've had representatives of council members and CAOs in past interviews, so it depends on the municipality, so it's entirely up to council.
It's not gonna be a conflict if a council member versus, we don't hire them or manage them anyways, it's strictly a budgeting conversation anyways, right? Unlike, versus a CPO.
Well, so the town has a municipal policing service agreement with the RCMP. Under that agreement is between the RCMP and actually town council. So council oversees that agreement. Rockies Council has delegated that down to the policing committee. So it wouldn't be a conflict if a council member participated in the interview.
Thank you. Counselor Phillips.
Yes, I'm actually quite glad that we are part of this process. It's been something that we haven't been part of in the past, and it's a very important position for our community. You know, the chief, or the head of our police detachment is the person that reports directly to council, directs, you know, and I'm glad to be part of it. I myself, whether it's one of the councillors, if it was one of our councillors, I would suggest Councillor Boniface, simply because he has a very vast background in an RCMP that none of us have. I would also be fine with Mr. Kraus as well, but either way, I definitely think we need representation for sure.
So I would also put my name forward to being on the interview as the chief elected official for the representing the town of Rocky Mountain House as the mayor. I think it would be suitable, but I certainly have no problem with Councillor Boniface being in on the meeting, because I value his experience and good working relationship that we have. Councillor Chappelle.
I sent out an email earlier today, and I was in favor of Councillor Boniface being there, just due to his knowledge and background. So I would make the motion if you're so ready for that, Your Worship.
Yes, I am. Thank you very much.
Okay, and let it be resolved that council appoint Councillor Boniface to be part of the interview process for the new staff sergeant.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments about that motion? Councillor Hutchinson.
I just want it to be clear that it's not that I don't think Shane would do well in the position, but I do feel that our CAO would be better suited for the job, so just to be clear, no hard feelings.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hutchinson, for that clarification. All in favor then, if there's no further comments or questions, all in favor of that motion? And those opposed? And that's carried. So moving forward in the agenda, we go to correspondence for action, 8.1 weed inspector appointments. And Mr. Kraus, this is something the county does, and then we just,
Yeah, so, Your Worship, so under the Weed Control Act, every municipality must appoint weed inspectors. The town and the county have historically shared that service, as they hire their own, basically, some summer students. And so we just appoint them as the weed inspectors for the town. And if we have a complaint, or they come in and inspect for obnoxious weeds.
okay, so would someone like to make a motion about 8.1? Councillor Hutchinson.
I'll make the motion that council appoints the following Clearwater County agriculture and community services staff as weed inspectors under the Alberta Weed Control Act for the town of Rocky Mountain House for 2023 for field and administrative duties for the duration of their employment as directed by Clearwater County's Agricultural Service Board. And I need to list the names.
They're on the,
Okay. Courtney Alstott, Kiera Middle, Jordan Sands, Ethan Tales, Leah Sulik. And apologies for maybe incorrect pronunciation.
thank you very much, Counselor Hutchinson. All in favor of it, if there's no further questions or comments, all in favor of that motion? And that's carried. That concludes 8.1, so moving forward to 8.2, a letter from the Rocky Mountain House Chuckwagon Association regarding request for reduced fees. So they've written a letter because even though there is some water on site, they do quite a bit of water hauling in order to host that event, similar to the rodeo, to make sure that the horses have enough water. Mr. Kraus, did you want to make any comments about that? Or we don't, you don't have to. Does anybody have any questions or comments about that letter? Counselor Phillips?
Yes, not really a comment about this letter, but this letter brings up maybe a more important issue, is, I know we had discussed this at our I believe it's our strategic planning session.
Yes.
Is it maybe time to bring to the service level retreat what it would cost for us to take the wells out there, figure out how many gallons per minute we have, get a pump in there, maybe a cistern system, and that will alleviate this problem. First of all, I'm in favor of this to help them out, but to alleviate this problem ongoing, we could, take a well or wells out there. Maybe we need an extra well, and over the long term, it'll actually be cheaper to have the water out there that's potable as opposed to trucking in water for different events all the time. But I am in favor of the chuck wagon request.
Thank you, Counselor Phillips. I do think that's a good service level question. And it might even go back to looking at our utilities master plan, because that would be considered a utility, would it not be? The water pumps and water at that area.
So, Your Worship, that wouldn't be included in the utility master plan, because it would be within the incorporation unless we instructed the consultant to review that, but it's more of from the water treatment plant out versus a separate system.
Okay.
Just to comment on the letter, so what they are asking for is water, sewer, and waste disposal. So as council can see, their last year's bill was $3,000 just for water. We asked them for the cost of sewer. They could not provide it to us because it was a private hauler that collected, and then we would have charged the private hauler, so we couldn't get an accurate amount there. And the waste, well, that would be a charge to them from the county, because it would have went out to the landfill. It wouldn't went into our system. So just make council aware this is not a budgeted item. Our revenue from them last year was $4,900 for the rental of the facility. And just to make council aware, previously when they rented from Raza, it was $13,000 per year. So, I mean, they're already getting quite a reduced cost with the town taking over the facility. So, if council wants to go down this path in the system with water and sewer, we would be in a deficit for this event, because our expenditure through water and sewer would be more than the rental fee that we charge for the facility.
Thank you, Mr. Kraus. I do have just one question before I go to Councillor Auld. On this, this fee, now we raised our rates at service level review because we found that our bulk water was below compatible rates, and so we did change that. Could we give them just a discount on their bulk portable water rate? Do we ever do something like that? Is that feasible? Not saying we give them the whole thing, but just give them some sort of like a 10% discount as a friendly, they're renting Thank you.
Your worship, I mean, it's totally in council's preview to reduce or waive fees. I guess my only comment to that is then we should be prepared to provide that to Raza and then the Ochis, and then, so it compounds that way, so.
Thank you. Counselor Ald, you had a question or comment?
What Mr. Kraus just said as far as going down the road of opening it up to all the other users, but I also, the only item in this letter that we can actually do anything with is the water, as far as I know. I would have a question for clarification on the actual bill. To me, the math doesn't make sense, so I would have to ask, I'm not sure, Wes or who I would ask for clarification on that.
What kind of question did you want to ask? Mr. Kraus can probably answer it. So your question is did they actually use that much water? It's a bulk water bill.
That's not what I am asking. I'm asking the amount of the bill compared to what they used for water. Doesn't seem to add up right. So I'm wondering if there's other fees in that bulk bill, or how we come up with that number.
Your worship, I would need to verify that with at least our utility clerk, I think.
Yeah, I would like clarification on that because they use 603,000 plus liters of water. When you divide that by the charge, it just doesn't add up properly in my mind. So I'd like clarification on that, but I'm not in favor of reducing that bill any, what their actual charge is.
Okay, so then I guess with that clarification, we could put it back to, would you like to make a decision today? You know, I'm all in favor of assisting community groups. I'd rather, you know, not cut, you know, it's a user pay system, so they're using to pay the facilities and they're using to buy bulk water. And so, you know, I'm in a favor maybe of giving them a reduced rate, you know, to promote this event off their water. But I don't think, you know, we want to rent this area out more often and not, you know, have taxpayers pay for everything. Counselor Hutchinson?
Yeah, I'm not in favor, excuse me, to support this. I just think that our fees that we charge them is very minimal. And again, other events, when we were renting for the Masters Games, we were charged the $5,000 a day. And it just, to me, it's a user pay system out there. And I don't think it's up to the town to be subsidizing that.
Thank you very much for your comments. Did anybody else have any comments? Counselor Chappelle?
I would agree with Councillor Hutchinson on that. So knowing what Mr. Kraus has said about what the old rent used to be, what the new rent is, and that is totally subsidized then by the town in some fashion, I would agree with Councillor Hutchinson.
So I think the best way to support, sorry, go ahead, Councillor Phillips, and then I'll have a last comment.
Yes, is there a way perhaps of having them or encouraging them to be looking at our small or large granting intakes?
I think we're done with that. Didn't we finish that for the year? Not for the large ones, but we are for the small ones.
You know, so your worship, for the small grant of $500, you can apply anytime throughout the year, or any organization can.
Okay,
And the large grant, it's 2 intakes, one at the end of March and one at the end of September.
sorry, thank you for the clarification. Okay, so I think with that being said, we can follow up with that. And also, I think the best thing we can do as a council for events like this is support and encourage community members to attend. Because the more people that attend, the better money that they make, and also it reduces the costs on the municipality, because the more tickets they sell, we get a portion of that. And the more people that camp there, we get a portion of that. So the more people that we can encourage to attend this event and support this event, it's better for the event and for the municipality. And with that being said, would somebody like to make a motion for 8.2? Counselor Caprero.
Be it resolved that council accept the letter from the Rocky Mountain Chuck Wagon Association as information.
Could I make a friendly amendment and ask the administration to write a letter saying that we will not be providing any information at this time? We just, we should reply to the letter somehow.
So, Your Worship, we always reply.
Okay.
When council accepts information, we do reply to them.
Okay, thank you. So no amendment needed. Any further questions or comments about the motion? Counselor Phillips?
Sorry, just, not regarding the motion, just regarding the inquiry I had about service level, would that be something that I should maybe do as a notice of motion? Okay, thank you. Or as a motion? Okay, well,
Okay.
we'll deal with
Yeah,
this motion
so we
first.
have to do one motion at a time. So the motion on the table is be it resolved that council accept a letter from the Rocky Mountain Chuck Wagon Association as information. And then with that being said, administration will write a letter back to them. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Any other motions with result of 8.2 discussions?
Yes.
Counselor Phillips.
Thank you. So I would like to make a motion to instruct administration to look into the feasibility of having potable water at the North Saskatchewan River Park, whatever form that would take. Actually, I correct that. Not from the water treatment plant. This would be a self-contained well system out there.
It's really close to what he wants to say. I know. I'm gonna get that when she's done doing whatever she's doing. It says Phillips Burt.
Yeah, be it resolved that.
Oh, thank you. So with that being said, are you happy with that motion as it reads now? Yeah, you're,
Yes, I am.
okay, thank you very much. So any comments or questions on that motion? Counselor Caprero?
Not on the motion itself, I just have a question for admin, just regarding the letter that's being sent to the Chuck Wagon Association. Can we put in there, perhaps if they want to apply for the small grant, that is an option to them, potentially? Okay, thank you.
No problem. So we'll call this motion to a vote then, seeing there's no other questions or comments. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So moving forward to 8.3, we're going to proclaim that May 29th to June 2nd is Alberta Rural Health Week. Did we want to have any discussion over that motion or that item? Counselor Chappelle.
I just brought this proclamation forward from the Health Retention and Recruitment Group, and they're going to be doing the same in the county as well. So we're just hoping we can do this proclamation.
Seeing that there's no questions or comments, I'll just have a last comment. I think this is a great idea. We definitely want to support and promote rural health in our community. It's so important to all our citizens, and so let's support all the people that are involved with rural health care. Even though we're a municipality, we're still called rural. So all in favor of, did you make the motion then? Did you want to make the motion? Counselor Chappelle.
Okay, thank you. Let it be resolved that council proclaim May 29th to June 2nd, 2023 as Rural Health Week in Rocky Mountain House.
Thank you very much.
And
So,
if the mayor would sign that, that'd be awesome.
thank you. So if there's no questions or comments about that motion, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So 8.4, almost along the same lines, request to declare May 19th World Family Doctor Day. Is that from you as well, Counselor Chappelle, or is that?
Your worship, it's not.
Did I forward that through? That must have been a while ago. So I don't have that letter in front of me, but I think, again, being said that supporting our health retention team and rural health and hospital foundation, that May 19th World Family Doctor Day would be suitable for our community. Did somebody want to make that motion? Counselor Phillips?
Yeah, I mean, family doctors are the backbone of our healthcare system, so I would be happy to make a motion to declare May 19th as World Family Doctor Day.
Thank you very much. So without seeing no other questions or comments on that motion, all in favor of that? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Moving forward in the agenda, invitation for Black Falls Days. The parade is June 17th of 2023. And I am unable to attend that day. Did somebody else want to attend?
I am available to attend that day, yes.
So this would require the town float. Would administration have time to organize that? We're already doing Caroline this weekend, and the weekend before this is our own parade.
So, Your Worship, the float is constructed, it's ready to go, so it's a matter of Councillor Phillips wanting to drive it out there, or if council needs a staff member to drive it out there, then we gotta re-look at that, because we would have to assign staff. So.
I would be comfortable driving it out there.
Councillor Ald.
I'll make a motion that Councillor Phillips attends the Black Falls Day Parade, June 17th with the town float.
Thank you very much. All in favor of, sorry, did you have a question? Okay. All in favor of that motion? Oh, sorry, Councillor Hutchinson, did you have a question or comment on that motion?
No, I was just gonna say, I think I could very much attend too, but I can confirm later on. Do we need that in the motion?
Yes, please.
Who made that motion? Oh, you did. Can you add me?
So Councillor Ald, do you agree to a friendly amendment to add Councillor Hutchinson? I'm sorry, yes?
I did, yes.
Thank you. All in favor of that motion then? And that's carried. Invitation for Ponoka Stampede Parade, June 30th of 2023. Does anybody have availability on that item? Councillor Chappelle?
Your worship, if I can I back up to the past Black Falls letter?
Yes, yes.
I just want to talk about their letter itself and how the actual letter is. It physically has the mayor and the councillors listed on the side of the letter. So just as a housekeeping kind of item, I'm thinking it's kind of neat that if we're sending out letters from the council, that it has everybody listed on there. I'm just wondering if that could be a format or should be a format that we look at down the road. I just throw that out there as a comment. I thought it had a good feeling about it, so.
It's actually their letterhead does it like that. It's not their letter, it's their actual letterhead.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was kind of neat.
I think it's a great idea to have everybody's information on the side, you know, when things are going and coming. Yeah, it's great. Did you want to make a motion to have our letterhead changed that way?
If it's not difficult, I'm not sure what it's like or if it's possible. If it's possible, I think moving forward that we should look at changing our letterhead to that format where it includes all the names and numbers and emails of counselors. So if a letter goes out and someone has a concern, they can get a hold of anybody. So I'd make that resolution resolve that council instruct administration to develop a
Mayor and councillor.
all council letterhead
Yep.
and use it for official correspondence.
Sounds great. Do we have any questions or comments on that motion? Nope, seeing none, I would call that to a vote. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried.
Sorry, Your Worship, for backing up.
No, that's fine. Actually, while we're on that topic, I think that it would be, you know, a great idea if our council did invitation letters like that for the events that we're holding at the North Saskatchewan River Park for other communities, even though it's not our event, like it's held by the Rodeo Association or the Chuck Wagon Association or things like that. It does support our municipality. It supports tourism. You know, we're inviting them, encouraging other communities to attend, you know, even though we're not necessarily having, would it be for tour, like, would it be a great idea if we did official invites to our municipalities similarly to participate in the parade, you know, for the rodeo and the Chuck Wagon and the Ochis First Nations event and the flying breakfast and whatever else our community is holding that we've, you know, that we're renting out our town facilities, you know, to the public. Councillor Hutchinson?
I also had a note just like that that said implement something similar as Pinoka to promote our parade events, things at North Saskatchewan River Park. So it was written up very, very well. I liked it.
Yeah. So, does that sound fair to everyone that we invite, you know, the, you know, neighboring municipalities? It'd be easy to get the information from, I think it's Stephanie Kloss for Raza, and it'll be Mike Larondel for Ochis, and obviously it's Gary for the Chuck Wagons, you know, get the information from them. So I think I'll make that motion, that be it resolved that council instruct administration to invite from all council to attend the 3 major events that are being held at the North Saskatchewan River Park this summer, including the parade. Does that sound the direction you want to go in, Councillor Hutchinson?
I don't think we should limit it to just the 3 events, just events
Okay.
in the community that.
I'm
'cause it could
trying to
be-
give good direction.
Yeah, but I'm thinking, I mean, because it could be, I don't know, hockey tournaments or things happening at the rec center as well. So I don't think we want to limit and be too specific.
Could we start with those 3 events and then build from there, do you think?
We're getting a head nod over there.
Councillor Ald?
The only thing I would caution is that if we're sending out invites for other groups, events, like whenever we get them from, say for example, Pinoka Stampede, it's complimentary tickets and whatnot, so I just would caution that it's not, we're not giving away tickets, or we're not trying to give freebies to somebody else's event. So just an information bulletin maybe, but not so much as an invitation.
Councillor Chappelle?
Well, I'm sort of on the same notion. I think we should leave that to our Economic Development Officer to send that out where he sees suitable to different organizations, a welcoming letter from the Council of the Town of Rocky Mountain to attend whatever's going on in our community. And just see what we can get. I think we should limit it, or we should leave it wide open, and we need somebody who's going to drive it. So economic development is my thought processes, so.
I think you're thinking the same thing I am, so please go ahead, Councillor Hutchinson.
Why didn't we have this discussion with strategic planning? That would have fit in perfect with it.
You're 100% right. Why didn't we?
I wasn't there that day.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Okay, so I think for today, I would like it to be resolved that council instruct administration develop 3 invitations to our 3 events from mayor and council to attend. And if we can invite them to attend the parade, it's not a cost to the town. Does it cost to enter a float in the parade at currently? It's $25, is that right? It's free. So to that point, there's no cost to invite someone to attend our parade and be involved in it. We don't have to pay them to come, and more floats, better parades, better for our community. So the Ochese First Nation is not having a parade or an event, and we can reach out to them, but if we at least invite them to the one that's happening in June. Councillor Chappelle, do you have a comment, and then Councillor Phillips?
I'll let Councillor Phillips comment first.
Just in back to Councillor Ald's comment about the tickets, yes, I agree that the municipality should not be providing free tickets, but perhaps talking to the rodeo and the Chucks and the, talking to those organizations, they may wish to include free tickets. So just a further step, just to talk to those organizations, maybe they do want to offer free tickets, and then we can offer them in the letters we send out to the other councils.
Councillor Chappelle?
Well, I think we have all kinds of events happening through our community all summer long. Demolition derby. There's just things that are happening, and I guess where I can see this is back to our strategic plan of. I think this is more a discussion for strategic planning and how we're going to address it. If we're going to do anything in the interim, then I think your motion of where we look at sending some out without a number on it makes sense. Preliminary, and then once we have our strategic planning discussion, where we might include that in there, then we might readdress that and see what we do going forward. I can see even a letter going out with, hey, here's what our summer looks like. Come and attend any one of these in Rocky Mountain House and advertise them all on one letter and send it out. And if you want, you can participate in any one, and the parade is something we really want you to participate in. So there's a different way of addressing, but I think, I don't know. Interesting topic.
Okay, so I just, are we happy with the 3 events? We'll send letters out that it's just a... Okay, so I feel that it's a good PR. It's not gonna cost anything. It's not gonna hurt anything. It's a letter from me to the council to say, please come to our events. Something we're missing in our community, inviting other mayors. You know, when you look at Megan's page in Sylvan Lake, what she's doing and how they are promoting, it's a good place to start with other officials. Councillor Hutchinson, do you wanna?
Yeah,
The way in?
maybe we just start with the parade
Okay,
until we have a further discussion, and that might be a thought if,
I think that's great. It's a great start. It's just that it's in like 20 days, right? It's better get on it, right? I would be happy to amend my motion to the parade and the Rocky Rodeo on the weekend of June 10th. I'm so happy to see that not everybody's having the same event on the same day this year like last year. Councillor Chappelle?
Due to the timelines, I'm going to suggest we table this matter till after we have some strategic discussion about how we're going to go. I think it's an awesome idea. I don't want to lose the idea. I think looking at when the parade is from now, it could be iffy. I'm okay with sending out the letter, but I'm just wondering if we should not table the whole matter and have a dialogue as to how who we're gonna send it to, what we're gonna request, what we're gonna tell them. Are we gonna talk to different people about getting free tickets for different events, all that kind of stuff? It's all part of that whole thing, and I think strategic planning is where it falls. So at this point, I would suggest we table this motion until we have a further discussion on it. Not losing the idea, though.
Could we go forward with this motion and make a second motion to have a discussion about this at the strategic planning talk? Councillor Phillips, did you have a question or comment? Councillor Chappelle's thinking that over.
I think we should go ahead with this motion. I don't see any harm in inviting other municipalities to our parade. And I do agree with Councillor Chappelle that this should be part of a larger discussion with our strategic planning. But I do think that this letter would be a good thing to send out to the other municipalities. So both.
So both, excellent. I agree with every idea. I just want to get something out for the rodeo parade. So I'm going to call this to a vote if there's no further discussion. All in favor of this motion that says that we will invite neighboring municipalities to attend the Rocky Rodeo Parade on the weekend of June 10th, 2023. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Do we need to have a motion to bring it up on a future talk, or that will just naturally occur when we review the strategic plan?
Session after we bring back the revised draft from the previous two.
Okay. Yeah, will you make a note to add this to our topic in case any of us forget this conversation happened? That would never happen, would it? Okay, so moving forward in the agenda, we're at 8.7. Oh, sorry, no, we're at 8.6. Invitation for Pinoka Stampede Parade, June 30th of 2023. Can we table, when do they need to know, the 17th of June, does it say? June 15th. Can we table this one? I have too many things going on. I just need to confirm some dates before I can make a decision on that. Or do you guys want to talk about this now? Did someone want to make a motion to table this 8.6 till, I don't know, June? June 6th? Counselor Phillips?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we table the Pinoka Stampede Parade request until the June 6th meeting.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? Questions or comments? And that was carried. So moving forward in the agenda, we're at 8.7, small community grant request. For the Pioneer Center. Does anybody want to talk to that item? It's on the agenda because they don't quite meet the criteria, is that correct?
No, Your Worship, they do meet the criteria. It's just every grant request comes
Okay.
to council for approval.
Counselor Phillips?
I mean, the Pioneer Center does amazing things for our community. The fact that they're hosting a barbecue to raise money for the Pioneer Center, I'm definitely in favor of this grant request.
Yeah, I have no problems with this grant request. Would somebody like to make a motion? Doesn't seem like there's much discussion on this topic.
Sure. I'd like to make a motion that the town of Rocky Mountain House grants the $500 grant request to the Pioneer Center.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. So 8.8, the Recycling Council of Alberta 2023 conference. October 18th to 20th, 2023. Nobody attended that last year, but the year before Councillor Phillips went to it. Do you want to
Yes, I was scheduled to attend this conference last year, but my new hip decided that it needed to come first, so I did not attend this conference. I would definitely like to attend this conference. There is a lot of value in this one because it is on the topic of recycling, circular economies. It fits well with what we're doing right now with our waste strategy, so I would definitely like to attend this conference for sure.
And can you go over the benefits of what, like I remember previous councilors talking about it when they went. It talks about circular economy, big time.
Yeah, the benefits are you're getting presentations and workshops on, leading edge technology, the new things that are coming out, networking with, I know, Sonavera is at this event. Different municipalities are at this event, so you can network and find out what's working well for other communities, what's not working well, what's coming up. I know EPR is always a big thing at this event. there's a lot of good information to be had at this event for sure that can be brought back and used in our municipality.
I also would like to attend this event. I think, you know, after I talked to the previous council members, it was a valuable, it just last year, there was so many things going on. They had it totally different dates, or it seemed to be conflicting with what was going on. Councillor Hutchinson and then Councillor Caprero.
Just a question, how many, council are we budgeted to attend? Is there an amount, or is there a max, or?
So, your worship, no, I mean, each counselor has their own training and conference budget line item. So,
I would also like to attend this event, especially with the EPR stuffing. You know what I mean?
I have our summary of our, maybe I don't have it here. We just got a summary of what our budgeting is for each person here not that long ago. Councillor Caprero.
I'd also like to attend this event, and I know that I have room in my budget.
Yes, you do. Okay, so, if we could make a motion that Councillor Phillips, Councillor Caprero, Councillor Hutchinson, and Mayor Bates would like to attend. Councillor Boniface, did you have a comment about this? No. Did you want to make the motion because you're not listed on there?
Sure.
Or Councillor Chappelle?
I would like to add my name if I could too.
Absolutely. Could you add Councillor Chappelle?
Make the motion be resolved that council approve councillors Phillips, Hutchinson, Caprero, and Schipple, and Mayor Beige to attend the 2023 Recycling Council of Alberta Conference in Lake Louise, October 18th to 20th, 2023.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. So I know we have a couple more items, but I think this is a perfect time to have a 10-minute break. So if we could have a 10-minute break and then come back, that would be fabulous. Thank you very much.
Sure thing.
Thank you very much. We're back with the Town of Rocky Mountain House meeting for Tuesday, May 16th. And we're moving forward in the agenda. We're at 8.9. A letter to council regarding deer population in town. So, it comes from a group of residents in 55 plus property. And their concerns are about sort of the hazards of so many deer in their neighborhood. If everybody's had an opportunity to read that letter, I think we could start some discussion on that item. Councillor Phillips.
Yes, thank you. I mean, I know the topic of deer has come up in the past. You know, obviously we've sent out messages encouraging our population not to feed the deer, which encourages them to come into town. Having said that, looking at this letter asking us to cull the town population of deer, I do not think is an answer. I don't think the town Rocky Mountain House is in the business of culling our deer population. I think there's other solutions or other things that we could do that would be better than that.
I'm kind of interested to see what everybody has to say about this. I know that walking to and from school can sometimes be quite scary in the fall, especially when they're rutting with the bucks and their horns, and they do not scare away. And so I can see how them being up on your patio right against your glass is disconcerting. I don't know what the solution is. Councillor Chappelle?
I think we send a letter to Fish and Wildlife and say that we've had citizens voice concerns about wildlife in our town, mainly deer. And if they have any suggestions or thoughts, or we just sort of live with where it's at. Some people consider them friendly pets and some people consider them quite the opposite, as obnoxious. So I don't think it's up to us. I think Fish and Wildlife, if they have a suggestion or a solution, that should be where we go.
Yep. I think that's a great idea, because at least we can start the conversation going to see what our options are from that perspective. Does anybody else have any comments? Councillor Phillips?
The only other comments I have is I understand that deer can be a nuisance for sure. Keeping that in mind, that there are people that come to our community and they are astonished that we have deer in here, and they find it a very enticing thing to come to our community. So it's both. You know, I can see where they become a nuisance, but also where people find them fascinating and they come to our community because of it.
Well, someone who's had 27 on their lawn, and you can't get from me with my small person to the school that's nearly across the street, it's a little disconcerting. And I know that lots of people stop and look at them on my lawn. Shane stopped one day and counted them all. And so, I'm not saying that we cull them so that there's none in town, but it is a little bit, you know, that same group like to hang out at the park across the street makes me nervous for little kids playing. Is everybody happy with that?
I really didn't catch it, Councillor Schiffel, so please tell me.
Just to Fish and Wildlife, that it's been identified that the deer population in town is a concern to some, and if they have any suggestions as to how to possibly curb that. I want to know if we can count them in our census for population. Yeah.
Mr. Kraus, do we have something in our bylaw, I know we just reviewed it, that says it's illegal to feed the deer?
Yeah, so your worship, I think 3 years ago, Fish and Wildlife did approach town council with a concern of residents feeding the deer, which attract more and so forth, and it's not healthy for them and so forth. So at their request, the town did pass a bylaw that it is illegal to feed the deer. I think we've had a couple complaints this year that we are addressing.
Okay. So we could also add that in our, in our letter that we have addressed some of the feeding issues as part of our bylaw. Counselor Hutchinson?
Was there something in our fruit tree, was there a policy or something that said if you have fruit trees growing that you're supposed to be keeping the areas around clean? I thought I remembered reading something about that.
I don't, your worship, so I don't think that's in a bylaw. I mean, I think it's part of our, it's, well, I guess, we're promoting the, you know, the fruit trees for public use and stuff like that, but it also's gotta be, we're trying to maintain it that it's, you know, it's not feeding the deer also. So we're kind of doing two things at once here. For public fruit and trees, we actually have a map where there's fruit trees in town for the public to access. But I don't think we have anything in there that restricts or cleaning up fruit.
There are people that if you do have a fruit tree, they'll come and take care of all the fruit on it for you if you don't want to do anything with it. Counselor Phillips, are you making that, or Counselor Schipple, can we put your name to that motion?
Yeah, your worship, I will do that. I'll put my name to the motion and let it be resolved. The council instruct administration to write Fish and Wildlife a letter that the deer population has been identified as a concern, and if they have any suggestions. as to
Thank you very
what
much. So seeing no further questions or comments on that motion, I can call that to a vote. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. So 8.10, draft recreation board meeting minutes, May 3rd, Alberta Summer Games. Sorry, I just want to see what our next things were. Counselor Hutchinson, did you want to talk about the meeting?
So at our last rec board meeting, we discussed the 2026 Alberta Summer Games, and we put forward a motion to say that the rec board supports the town and county councils preparing a letter of interest. So we would need a motion from here. County has not, as far as I know, had this brought forward to them yet. I know their agenda last week was quite heavy, so I believe Councillor Sydney Graham will be bringing it forward to County. So I would, and I also had another thing to talk about on here too, but I would like to put the motion forward that be it resolved that council instructed Min to prepare a letter of interest to host the 2026 Alberta Summer Games, as well as establishing a bid committee to prepare a bid submission.
And do we know what the bid committee consists of yet?
No. I would assume it would be
Didn't say
some
nothing in your
staff.
documentation. We can't establish a bid committee if we don't have the.
It says the bid guidelines and staff consultation are available by contacting somebody at the rec branch.
Okay.
So I would take it that direction.
That sounds fair to me. Any questions or comments about that motion? All in favor of that motion then? And that's carried. And so you had another item to discuss with Councillor Hutchinson?
Yes, the ARPA conference,
Can you tell me what that is?
Alberta Recreation Parks Association. And that conference is October 26th to 29th. It's also at the Fairmont Chateau Lake Louise. So it's 2 admin staff, 1 town councillor, and 1 of the rec board members attend the conference. So I just did put my name forward for the recycle conference. So that would be open if another councillor would like to attend that conference.
So you don't plan on attending the rec board conference then?
I could, but it's just back-to-back weekends, so if somebody else would like to go, it was a great conference. Gives you a whole different outlook of the rec side of things for our towns as opposed to, you know, looking at it from behind this chair. So it's a really good conference.
When do we need to know that by, Mr. Kroos?
Your worship, I would have to defer that to Mr. Ament.
It's,
The room is booked,
Okay.
so it's a matter
registration doesn't open till June.
July.
Well, Tiffany and I looked at that the other day, but registration doesn't even open till into June, so we could probably table it. The rooms, like Mr. Ament had said, that the rooms are booked, so bring it back up closer to the date.
Okay. Was there anything else you wanted to discuss about the rec board meeting? Counselor Hutchinson? If not, then I can move.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
not, unless anybody had any questions about the minutes. These were the draft ones, but they do come up again, the approved minutes later on in, under correspondence, I think.
Okay, so with that being said, we will leave that invitation for some to attend the Alberta's Winter Games for later, or the ARPA for till later. And we'll move forward in the agenda to 8.11, which is the Gulls opener. So I got a letter from the Gulls that is inviting anyone who wants to attend. They're having a media event 2 days before their opener, and it's on the 24th, and she just would like to know some numbers. If anybody would like to go, I think it'd be kind of good. It's not an actual game. It's free to attend, but it's like a networking thing, and you can meet the players, and it's sort of like a pre-promotion of the games. So I would like to attend, and I would take James and a friend with me. Does anybody have a problem with me attending, or would anybody else like to also attend? Counselor Phillips?
I don't have a problem with you attending. I will not be able to attend. I'll be in FCM. I believe Counselor
Yes.
Hutchinson will be there as well.
Anybody else like to attend? Counselor Chappelle?
So make the motion that we allow the mayor and every which other councillor wishes or chooses to attend on that specific date, to take whomever they wish to take with them.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So moving forward in the agenda, 8.12, a discussion about coffee with the counselor. I can't remember who brought that up. Counselor Hutchinson.
Yeah, I wanted to have a discussion on this because we've had some good feedback, good information, but I would like to know what we want to do with the information we have. One suggestion that came out of Dale and Glenn's meeting, last one, was a sign-up sheet for people that come in, so that we've got their names and email, phone number if they choose to put it down. My thoughts were kind of in the direction of after each meeting, doing up a summary, and then the possibility of putting something on our webpage maybe that says Coffee with Counselor discussions, and can kind of just do a briefing. And I kind of think, if we have 4 counselor meetings and we've got the same issues coming each time, it's a way for us to recognize them and maybe take it to the next step.
Would it be something that you wanted to put on your monthly report, when you did it, and then put who you talked to and what you talked about on the monthly report, and then we can discuss it during a council meeting. So I'll go Counselor Chappelle and then Counselor Phillips.
My thought process is that we each do a report up, and then we have somebody who coordinates those reports and tries to put the similar ones together, and we try to come up with what seems to be a predominant topic in the meetings to have a look at. I think if we put stuff on the town website, it's a dangerous place to go, because if we miss somebody's point, they could be going like, what, I didn't count? I do think, though, we need to do something, because there is significant amount of what I think is good information coming forward, and/or concerns, and/or points. I mean, a lot of them, we get a lot of positives. Like last time when Len and I met, the guy was all excited about how well we did at snow removal and street cleaning compared to where he lived before. Those kind of subjects or conversations need to go further than Len and I. So I think someplace we need to figure out how we're going to make that happen. And I don't know. I'm open, because somewhere we need to do something. I totally agree with where Councillor Hutchinson's at on this.
Counselor Phillips?
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Hutchinson and Councillor Schipple. We need to do something with this information. I know for this month I have added it to my council report, just because I didn't know what else to do with it. So it will be in my council report, the topics of discussion. But it is important, because the residents are taking the time out of their day to come in and voice their concerns with us, so we should be doing something with that. Where that is, I don't know, whether it's at a council meeting, whether it's a committee of the whole meeting, I don't know. But we definitely should be doing something with it. For starts, it should be in our council reports for sure, but I think it should go further than that, because they're taking their time out of their day to give us information, and we should do something with it.
Counselor Ald?
I like Councillor Hutchinson's idea where we do up a summary of the meeting and we submit that to administration. Administration then can compile everything after a month, and these were all the ideas that were brought up, good, bad, and otherwise, and have it actually in a formal agenda item to be discussed.
We could add it to the committee of the whole for a formal agenda item. Could it be just as an agenda item, what did we discuss at the, wouldn't be hard to put it on every, committee of the whole, or the next committee of the whole. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, Your Worship, it is, but council's got to remember, committee of the wholes aren't booked for July and August, so you would have a period of time where then it wouldn't be discussed. So.
Could we put it on a regular agenda?
Yes.
So if we did it as part of our, what did you say that you already did it as? Your monthly
I've-
report, yeah?
Yeah, I've got it in my monthly council
Yeah.
report now. But I think maybe coffee with a counselor is just a standing agenda item every, maybe the first or third council meeting of the month. We just have it as a standing agenda item.
So if we did it with our counselor reports though, for now, because it's sort of a new process, would anybody be opposed to just making sure, and then we can discuss it when we go through it, because it's on the agenda anyways, right? Our counselor reports, and just say, when I had coffee with the counselor, we could have the discussion then, and then tie it to that agenda item on whatever, whenever those are. They'll be on the first, right? Because we have to have them on the 20th, and then they come on the first meeting. That would solve it, and then administration doesn't have anything. We just have to remember that whoever's in that puts it on their council reports. Do you like Councillor Hutchinson?
I kind of like the idea of adding an item on the agenda, coffee with counselor, something on there. I just feel sometimes, depending on where we're at with our meetings, our reports kind of just get gone through too fast. And I feel that it would be nice to have it as an agenda item.
Okay. So, our next agenda will have, let's put it on there for now, if everybody feels okay with that. And then we can make a formal motion after that. And have Mr. Cross, maybe, do you have any other suggestions of how we would incorporate that into a council meeting?
So, Your Worship, I think it would go under council reports, but we just have one bullet saying coffee with counselor.
Okay.
But then administration needs the information to put in the package. And I'm not too sure what format you're looking at, if it's just council's notes to us, or you want us to formalize it, or,
So that's why if we did it just like we do our, you know,
I think if we're doing it in our council reports, that information could be taken off of our council reports and just compiled into one, you know, one page, and that could be bullet underneath our council reports for discussion.
Counselor Chappelle, do you like that idea?
I'm gonna suggest that we're typically in pairs now, that one of the counselors does up a report, sends it to the other counselor, adds, deletes, changes, goes back and forth, so we don't have duplication at a council meeting in a package. Then you get that, you know, when the two of us met, we can go through that and list what we thought was what we heard. And that way you're, you know, he's, you know, Len's not, or Counselor Phillips isn't saying the same thing I am to waste our time, so that we have a more of a compact situation. So I don't think,
So we'll do it up like that report, and then whenever our council reports are due, we'll do the coffee with the council report and submit it at the same time, so it's on that same agenda?
I think it should have its own bullet on the agenda.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah.
It'll be like Mr. Kraus said, it'll be all our
Yeah.
names, and then the last one or the first one will be coffee with the counselor separately.
I know, because I know I'm lucky, because I had one with Counselor Hutchinson. I know she'll have all the notes made up already, and Counselor Phillips said he's got all the notes made up, so it takes all the work away from me. So I'm already excited about going that way.
Okay, so we will have Mr. Kraus, Counselor Alt, did you wanna? We'll have Mr. Kraus add a bullet to the next meeting, and then whoever had coffee with the counselor in the last, since the last, because mine was just on my council report as well, when I did coffee with the council last month. So if whoever did it in this period of time, when Tiffany asks, could we have Tiffany ask for the coffee with the counselor report separately? Would that solve it, and then it's done at the same time? Do you need a motion or anything like that, Mr. Kraus? Okay, so would someone like to, Counselor Phillips?
Sure, I'll make a motion that council ask admin to add on the first council meeting of each month on the agenda an item under council reports that states coffee with a council report.
Is that enough detail? Yeah, okay, good. Thank you very much, Counselor Phillips. All in favor of, is there any questions or comments about that motion? Seeing none, I'll.
I just want to know if we're going to
Schmeltz.
do a togetherness report in terms of who's there. We're going to do one report.
I think so.
So a summary of a coffee of the counselor,
A
then by the
summary of
counselors.
each one, right?
I just want to make sure the motion has that, so we're moving forward.
Counselor
Counselor-
Triple, you're on with me on the 25th, so that'll be good practice.
We'll flip a coin.
So are you happy with that motion, Counselor Phillips? And there's no other questions or comments about the motion? Just waiting for Laura to finish typing so we know what we're voting on. Do you want to reread that now? Is that right?
Yes, I'll make a motion that council add coffee to a councilor summary to the regular council meetings, and that councilors provide summary notes to administration along with their monthly report.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. So that was Counselor Phillips. Okay. So that concludes correspondence for action. Just double checking. Yes. And so 9, correspondence for information. Is there anything anybody would like to bring to our attention for correspondence for information? Did everybody see that the museum is inviting us on May 27th? Okay. Counselor Hutchinson.
I just wanted to bring to the attention the Clean Energy Improvement Program, the documents that are in there, more so for our audience that's watching. It's a great little boost for our municipality that we were the first one that launched it, and the successes, so just for people to have a look at it. It's pretty proud of it in our town.
Thank you very much. If there's nothing else to discuss, would somebody like to make a motion for correspondence for information? Counselor Hutchinson,
I'll make that motion.
to accept for information 9.1 to 9.5.
Well, you kind of said it, so
No, I didn't, but I will if you want me to.
I knew it would be up there shortly. Do you want me to reread it?
No, that's fine. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. So that brings us forward in the agenda to the action list. Mr. Kraus, was there anything you wanted to highlight?
Sure, Your Worship, I can just quickly run through it for council. So the Riverview Phase 2, that costing will be brought to council on the June 13th Committee of the Whole meeting. The off-site levy report, we're hoping to bring back on June 6th. It may be June 20th, but we're just drafting that RFP for council's consideration. The letter to Canada Post is in progress. Ms. Breeze is working on that. Signage at the rodeo grounds is in progress. Mr. Ament is working on that. Hosting the games, that was dealt with by council today. And the Alberta Air Tour, that the chamber has taken the lead on that, so we could probably take it off the list. And so I think that is it. Oh, fees for criminal record checks. We are hoping to have that back to council on June 6th, as we're getting the cost to put a point of sale into the RCMP detachment. So.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Kraus? So I'll make a motion to accept for information the action list for for May 16th of 2023. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Moving forward in the agenda, do we have any administrative inquiries today? Councillor Shipalt, don't forget your button.
I only have one, Your Worship, if I could. At our meeting with Len, Councillor Phillips, myself, we met with Tatiana from the Grey Wooded Forge area. And I'm not sure if this is where I need to bring it up or not, but she's looking for a letter of support. They're located here in Rocky Mountain House. And she came here to introduce herself, but most of the members of that group are from out of Rocky Mountain House. And so she's hoping that she can get a letter of support that just for her, for that business to stay located in Rocky Mountain House. I don't know if we do that kind of thing or not, and Councillor Phillips, maybe you can extrapolate on that if you would.
Grey Wooded Forest Products was the name of her organization, and yeah, she just came in to introduce herself, introduce what they did, and just looking for support to keep that organization in Rocky as opposed to being centralized somewhere else.
They presently share an office with the Rocky Ag Society, and they're agriculturally based, I believe it is. And I asked her to send me an email. I haven't got that yet, or in regards to what she's really looking for. But if we do a letter like that, I'm hoping that we can give them a letter of support. I don't know if we do that or not. Yeah.
So, Your Worship, if they can send their request in via email or letter, then we can put it on the council agenda for council to discuss.
They're having their annual meeting in a couple of weeks, and she's hoping to have it there for their annual meeting, I think. Let me follow it up with her and see what's going on. And then, pardon me?
June 27th.
Is that when their meeting is? Okay. Would we have a meeting before then?
Yeah, we have two.
Okay.
We have two. Any other administrative inquiries today? Seeing none. Do we have any notices of motion today? Yeah, I thought we had some.
Yes, this is one of the topics that came out of the coffee with the councillor, and I've heard it before with different members of public. We were live streaming the community of whole meetings, and the concern is that we have the discussion at a community of whole meeting. We spend an hour or so or more debating these topics. It comes to the next council meeting and it gets put through. The public doesn't see the discussion that we have at the committee of the whole meeting. So I would just like a notice of motion that we discuss, re-live streaming our committee of the whole meetings. I know it's a topic we talked about before, but I think it's probably something we need to talk about again.
Just, that's excellent. Were you on the pro side or the winning side or the losing side of that last motion?
I was on the winning side of that, the last motion.
Okay, excellent. Then you can. You voted not to do it, right?
That's
Not to
correct.
live stream it.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
okay, so it has to be you that brings it forward. Can't be someone who was on the other side. Do we have any other notices of motion? Seeing none, I believe we have some closed session items today, so I'll take a 5-minute recess before we go into closed session. Yes. Okay, welcome back. We're we need to go into closed session, so I'll have someone make a motion to go into closed session. Counselor Boniface,
I'll make the motion for us to go into closed session.
all in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So we.
When you see yourself on the screen, then you will be allowed.
Okay. So thank you very much.
see
We
yourself on the
have come
screen,
out
then
of
you will
closed session and we have So thank you very much.
see
We
yourself on the
have come
screen,
out
then
of
you will
closed, we have no resolutions coming from that. So I would like to adjourn the meeting adjourned.